Here we have a piece known as the white ground Pyxis, which was made around 465 BC and is a part of Greek art. By the middle of the 5th century, vase painting was developed along more pictorial lines. A much employed new technique was white ground applied to the red surface of the clay, with the scene painted upon this in reds, browns, and black. The white background gave new prominence to the glazed lines and polychromy. Moreover, an increasingly patternly tendency becomes evident. Shading and other non-linear modulations into depth are employed to an ever greater degree. Note, for instance, the treatment of the rocks upon which the youth is seated on. While most of the vase figures are fairly linear, some attempt has been made to make the rock Paris is sitting on look 3D by varying colors. The artist who made this was known as the Penthesilea painter. He painted Attic red-style vases. His real name is unknown. His name Penthesilea painter comes from a famous vase that depicts the slaying of Penthesilea by Achilles. His work is known for its large space-filling pictures. Postures are often bent to make the figure fit. Most of his vases depict youth and young boys engaged in athletic activity. A lot of scenes also depict people talking to horses and everyday scenes. He painted very few mythological scenes. A pyxis is a small vase that was usually used to store precious items. These were things such as cosmetics, perfumes, jewelry, or oils. This white ground pyxis depicts the judgment of Paris, the event which led to the Trojan War. Here, Paris is being approached by Hermes, the messenger of the gods, who is presenting the three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. They are depicted on the other side of the vase, awaiting the youth's decision. But the artist has dealt with the story in a strictly non-heroic way. Paris is little more than a callow boy, and the goddesses on the reverse are equally fatuous. The heroic, idealizing period of Greek art is over, and from now on, other forms and conceptions will prevail.
The Westminster Abbey, one of the prominent pieces of architecture that exists in London, United Kingdom, is at the heart of English history. Not to be confused with its cousin that is just across the street, the Palace of Westminster. The Westminster Abbey is a church that was constructed using Gothic architecture that originated from France. The construction for the church was started by Edward the Confessor, who became King of England in 1042, after he had previously spent most of his life exiled in Normandy, France, while the Danes controlled England. According to a periodical titled The Consecration of Westminster, while in exile in Normandy, Edward had sworn a solemn oath that if he ever became King of England, he would go on a pilgrimage to St. Peter's in Rome to give thanks. But when the time came, his advisors told him that it was not politically advisable. To make up for it, he decided to dedicate a monastery to St. Peter that was completed in 1065 using Gothic architecture from that time. Shortly afterwards, William the Conqueror had himself crowned and anointed King of England inside Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day in 1066, which began the long line of ceremonial coronations that have been held for all kings and queens of England ever since. In 1245, King Henry III tore down the church to reconstruct and enlarge it to the current state that we know it as now. The reconstruction took years to complete. However, the early English Gothic design of Henry III's time predominates, giving the whole church the appearance of having been built at one time. Some of the key features of the church consist of its beautiful nave design by architect Henry Yavilli. Instead of the barrel vault design that was used prior to the Gothic art, a rib vault design was used that allowed the nave's vault to be the highest in England at 102 feet high. Another notable attribute is the Lady Chapel, which is famous for its exquisite fan vaulting and perpendicular Gothic style. The western towers, one of the most recognizable features of the Abbey, were completed in 1745 and the last addition to this magnificent work of art. More stylistic features that distinguish Westminster Abbey as English Gothic includes scant use of flying buttresses, great length and little attention to height, and an asymmetrical floor plan of the church.